This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by note.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the note and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast. We are here with a new episode and a new question, and it is the week of the Olympics.
Let's go.
We are so excited. We love the Olympics. I mean, if you have listened for more than one episode, you know we just love all things sport and athletics. And we were actually with a friend recently, and he had said that literally the only thing he watches on TV has to be a game of some sort. So whether it's pickleball or badminton or hockey or track and field, like whatever it is, he's watching if there's a score. And I feel like with the Olympics, like we're all hype and excited for that. And so this episode is Olympic themed. So let's dive into the question. Our question is from a listener named Noah, which I thought was hilarious because there's an Olympian named Noah.
Noah Lyles.
That we're watching this year. But Noah says, why do Olympians and other champions get emotional after winning?
Well, I think I'll start by saying that I feel like this Olympics is pretty emotional going into it for no other reason than the last Olympics was supposed to be in 2020, and the pandemic moved it to 2021. And to be honest, I don't even remember the 2021 Olympics. I don't remember watching it. I don't remember the outcomes. It's a blur that it even happened.
Same.
So this Olympic is so special because it feels like we're kind of back. We're kind of back to normalcy. And there's been so much hype going into it. We've been watching the Netflix series Sprint and just getting so pumped for track and field. One of our favorite things to watch in the Olympics. It's just incredible.
It's fascinating
what these athletes can do. Not just the track and field athletes, but any Olympian. What they are able to do is incredible. And part of it is because of the hard, relentless sacrifice and work that they put into their craft. They get to become the person that represents their country. And then if they podium or if they win, they now become the best person in the world at that particular thing that they have dedicated their life to. So where does the emotion come from? It's because when they're training and they're sacrificing, they're working so hard, they don't see the fruits of that labor up front. They have to keep grinding. They might win a world championship and for a short period of time get to say, I'm the fastest person in the world, or I am the most accurate in the world, whatever the sport may be. But when they win that gold medal, they now get to enter this arena that only few people have ever entered before. And it's that moment of it all coming to fruition. And them silencing the doubters, the critics, but also showing themselves that they could in fact achieve that. Because it's not fear that keeps you from becoming a champion, it's doubt. For example, Usain Bolt, he came back and crushed the 200 meter and the 100 meter, and part of it was fear. Fear that someone may beat him or fear that someone may take his record. So that fear made him go work. There's a quote of him saying that when he lost I think it was the 200 meter, and I think it was a world championship. It wasn't the Olympics quite yet, but he lost that. And he went back and worked so hard for the next 2 months. He nearly puked every day from how hard he worked out of fear that he was going to lose his world record and his title as the fastest in the world. Like the fear mobilizes you to perform better. The doubt keeps you from performing. So not only do these athletes overcome incredible physical barriers, but they overcome the doubts that other people had on them and the doubts that they may have had about themselves at one point. So that emotional outburst that you see, like watching Last Dance when Michael Jordan won his first championship and that outpouring, it's because the amount of work that they put into this thing and that it finally comes to fruition, the body just has a release. It just releases all these things that they've pent up and have just kept putting their head down and working, putting their head down and working, putting their head down and working. Now, for a short period of time, they get to celebrate that accomplishment.
Yeah, I think of any Super Bowl that I've watched, like I remember watching the Super Bowl after like Hurricane Katrina. Wasn't the Saints in it the following year or something like that? And I just remember like being younger and seeing Drew Brees with his son. And I remember crying, thinking like this is so beautiful and he worked so hard. And I feel that way every single year. Obviously, like there's a team that I want to win the Super Bowl each year, but watching the Chiefs win with you when we started dating and every time they've won since, like it's an emotional moment. Like also watching LeBron James win the WA or NBA finals with Cleveland, like that was I was living near Cleveland at the time, like that emotional outburst that he had and just like that whole series in and of itself was something to be admired, I think, as fans. And so with the Olympics coming up, I feel like that's what I'm eager to experience. I'm eager to watch these different um athletes have these moments of like pure victory because while we were watching sprint, Noah Lyles was like, yeah, you train 9 months, but really it's not 9 months, it's years and years and years of training to run less than 10 seconds if you're running the 100 meter. And I just think like that is a lot of time and effort to put into something that's going to last less than 10 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, and 2 points from that. One, I go back to when Richard Sherman was being interviewed in the NFL after a very emotional victory, and then he's just yelling to the microphone, and so many people judged him and criticized him. And I have such a pet peeve with athletes being interviewed after, like, accomplishing this thing that they've been chasing their entire life. Like, what are you supposed to say in that when you're just feeling all these things? And I'll kind of say this, that for a lot of them, it's the first time that they're feeling for a while, because for the training that they're doing, part of it is shutting down what their body is telling them
Right.
to be able to keep pushing. So all of a sudden they're able to start feel these emotions and that I did it. And the first thing they want to do is go celebrate with their families. They don't want a microphone shoved in their face. How do you feel about this moment? How do you feel about this moment? You
Yeah.
try to answer that question. Like,
Right.
I wish in sports they would implement that you need to wait like 10 to 15 minutes before you get to go talk, so that they can just be in the moment and experience it and not have to worry about an interview and not saying the wrong things or the right things, or that they have to
Right.
channel in their celebration. Like, they freaking earned it.
Yeah.
Let them go collect the confetti and put it in their pockets. Let them run around the let them run around the track carrying their country's flag. Let them go hug their parents and their kids, and all those moments. Like, don't take that a moment away just to get this section on TV of an athlete that may just lose it during the interview.
Right.
And then when they do the interview, then they're so heavily criticized afterwards. But anyway, off of that talking point, I do want to extend it out, because it's not just like, what I take from the Olympics is just hard work, sacrifice, discipline paying off. And to be able to say that you're the best in what you do is incredible. But let's expand it out, because it's not just to us about Olympic athletes. To be the best at anything is difficult. To be the best author, to be the best aunt or uncle, to be the best friend, to say that you're the champion at your workplace. It takes a lot of work. And I think we see it a lot with parents. Like, I know when I earned my doctorate, like, for my parents, that was their Olympics. Of like, we did the best that we could do, and we allowed him to go on, and he's getting his doctorate. And for them, that was their Olympic Super Bowl moment of just emotions of like, wow, we can say that we were the best parents of Dr. Dylan Caswell. And so I think when you see these athletes and have those emotional outbursts, think about, what are you the champion of, or what are you working towards being the champion of? And when that moment happens, what would your outcome be? And that can start to help you relate it to what you're saying. On the other side of this, when you see an athlete go down with an injury, imagine that thing being taken away from you. And that's why we see the emotional outburst when that happens.
Yeah. I remember gosh, I think it was the 2012 London Olympics, and there was this meme that went around afterwards because whoever placed first and it was a diving event, and I forget the names or the countries, but whoever placed first celebrated, the person who placed second was so upset. Like there was no celebration. They were so cranky. And I think that they were expected to win. So the fact that
Mm,
they didn't win, like they were even more upset. But then the person who placed third, like the entire diving team just like shoved them in the pool in celebration. And it's this beautiful, like, holy crap, you just placed third. You're the third best in the entire world. And so it's interesting how our bodies and our emotions will respond in such like grave moments, right? And I think I can't imagine getting to the Olympics and placing second, but at the same time, I hope and I pray that every athlete that goes, like, yes, they probably all have the desire to win and to become the champion and the best in the world. But I hope that if they do not, and even if they do, they can still have a spirit of gratitude that, like, holy crap, I made it here.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's why the opening ceremony is so special,
Yeah.
like for viewers. But I just can't imagine being an Olympic athlete and walking in, being introduced as the person representing your country
Hmm.
for this particular event, and just being with the best athletes in the world, knowing that, yes, I'm going to compete against these people, but we're all here together.
Hmm.
Like we all put in the hard work, the training, like we get what we went through to get here. So competition time comes, oh, they're my enemy. But immediately after,
Yeah.
best friends.
Well, that honestly dives kind of into my hope story because my hope story is watching the show Sprint and how I think it could be easily perceived that sprinters don't work in teams,
Mhm.
right? But the reality is that when you're an athlete of any kind, not only do you have at least one coach, but usually you have multiple coaches, usually you have training partners, usually you have people on your team to help you with recovery, and then of course you have a support system. And I was just really impressed with that entire show because it showed the importance of community. Not only, like Dylan was saying, you get to the Olympics and you're surrounded by the Americans with you, and you're so excited to be surrounded by the Americans, but then obviously you're going to still go compete. I think the show showed me how important it is that community is around, not just like for training, but in general. You saw people together like all the time, all year, getting ready for at that was the world championships, but I know they're doing the same for the Olympics. And so it's a really simple hope story for myself, but I I love community. It's one of my favorite things. Community is one of the reasons Dylan and I got together in the first place, was just our passion about community. And so getting to see that and knowing that the Olympics, I think, are at a very unique time, at least in American history, because there's a lot going on in the world right now. Um, just like there was a lot going on at the last Summer Olympics. And there's a beauty that the Olympics unifies people. And so I think not only was the show Sprint reminding me of community, but I think the Olympics in general is reminding me of how important community is and how important unity is. So that's my little hope story. What's your hope story, Dylan?
So my hope story is, obviously the Olympics are the Olympics. It's the biggest stage, right? But I think that we all have our own individual Olympics, whatever that thing is that we're trying to achieve or potentially get back to. And we've had the honor of working the past year with a couple of individuals that running is their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like running is what, it's not who they are, but being able to run fulfills them. It makes them more excited about their day. Um, they're both very competitive individuals, and so they have goals of running in senior Olympics and things like that. But more importantly, they want to do it to show the next generation that you can do this. And watching them do the work to get back to running, to building the body type and the tendon resiliency and joint resiliency and the graded exposure for the neurological system, being able to build that up and get back into that activity, just watching the joy on their face when they first get back into it. It's amazing because it's joyful, but then immediately they're like, I got some work to do if I want to compete.
Yeah.
And it's brought me to my hope story is that like we get the honor of working with people that are very competitive. And I think it's like partly of our nature of being very competitive. But in that, what I've realized is that competition is a great thing if it pushes you to reach the best of your potential. Competition is an ugly thing when you start comparing to other people or comparing to what your past times were. So it's just been an honor to watch these individuals work hard and get back to it and to keep that competitive nature and to just watch their whole affect change because they have this activity back in their life again.
Yeah. I love the realization that you can be joyful and driven. And obviously, like, the goal is that you're driven with joy rather than driven with like frustration or, I don't know. I think competition should always be joyful, and I don't think this contradicts what you were saying, but like you can compare to your past, but do it in a way that's joyful, not in a way that like you get hung up on whatever, because you might be able to still break those PRs from 40, 50, 30, 20 years ago. But if you're looking at it with a negative mindset, then you're not doing yourself a favor and you're actually hurting your progress. But if you're able to look back, acknowledge it, but then move forward in joy and competitiveness and stay driven towards the future, I think that's a recipe for a great athlete.
Yeah, very, very well said.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We are doing episodes every single week. And so slide into our DMs on Instagram and ask us questions because we'd love to feature this every single Wednesday. We are releasing an episode on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. So please share it with a friend, rate, review, and keep spreading hope to everybody you can.
And remember, every day is not just a day to be hopeful. It's an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Know podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Know podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.